if there's anybody watching this that, let's say, loved Batman Forever and went into Batman and Robin with great anticipation, if I disappointed them in any way, then I really want to apologize, because it wasn't my intention. My intention was just to entertain them.
What I really meant to say is I'm sorry for the way I am. I never meant to be so cold. Never meant to be so cold. What I really meant to say is I'm sorry for the way I am.
Batman and Robin. Mr. Freeze launched the shivering shockwave, but heat scan Batman's thermal sensors make Freeze sweat. And now the blazing Bat Hammer lights up the night, ready for the final fight, sending the frozen fiend to a massive meltdown. Batman and Robin. Figures of vehicles each sold separately, batteries not included. Batman and Robin. Ice Terror Mr. Freeze launches a chilling strike. Blast-wing Batman whips his massive cape to cut down the cold criminal. Now Robin comes with his Redbird cycle to put evil on ice, and Batgirl blasts in to send Freeze to the cooler. Batman and Robin. Vehicles come with figures. Blast-wing Batman sold separately.
Now that we've just watched the entire movie together, on to the review. Batman and Robin isn't a movie. It's a 2-hour-long toy commercial. The studio asked Schumaker to make another Batman movie after the success of Batman Forever, and they wanted it fast. What's bizarre to me is that they'd give him more mandates after he made a successful movie. I mean, when they hired him for Batman Forever, they told him to make a more lighthearted Batman movie because of parents' complaints that Batman Returns was too dark. Then he made a movie that was really popular, and they wanted something lighter still. Why? Surely no one was complaining that Forever was too dark for their kids. No, this was a money-making thing, plain and simple. Get a new movie out just 2 years after the last one, get the toy company involved in designing all the costumes and vehicles, create a very cookie-cutter plot just so you can call it a movie, and you got yourself a quick money-making machine. The problem, of course, is that this is exactly the kind of thing they were trying to avoid back in '89 when Tim Burton made his first Batman movie. The studio didn't think anyone would want more campy Batman, so something more serious was made. Why would they think things would change so much in 9 years that fans would want a regression in storytelling? They basically said, okay, Mr. Schumacher, we like what you did in Batman Forever. The lighter Batman thing is working. We sold tons of tickets and merchandising for that one, so go even further. Camp equals money. In a sense, they told him to make a dumbed-down version of Batman Forever. Think how stupid that sounds. The plot goes like this. Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy team up to destroy the entire population of the world. Batman and Robin and Batgirl stop them. The end. See? It's a toy commercial. Okay, so more stuff than that happens, of course, and I'll get into it. But this movie really doesn't bother with themes or ideas because it isn't there to tell a story, it's there to sell you things. You know how sometimes a Batman toy line will come out and they'll have figures with costumes Batman would never wear? They'll be blue or red or yellow, and they'll have silly names like Neon Armor Batman or Wing Blast Batman. Those kinds of outfits are actually in this movie. They didn't have to make up a lot of silly figures because they're all there. Kenner was actually involved in designing this stuff, which is why Mr. Freeze is driving this thing around and why there's a bat snowmobile. If not the worst superhero movie ever made, Batman and Robin is certainly the most notorious. The nipples in the bat suit, the monosyllabic Bane, the ice puns. Oh, the freaking ice puns. So let's break it down. Most people really hate this movie, but why? What makes it so completely awful? Is it because it's too flashy, too campy, too punny? Is it George Clooney? Is it Arnold Schwarzenegger? All of the above for a lot of people, but I think the biggest issue is the one that kills most bad superhero movies. It can't decide who it's marketed to. It's a toy commercial, but it also wants to appeal to adults. That's not really possible. That's like giving a My Little Pony a lightsaber, trying to make that appeal to boys. So Batman and Robin tries to compensate for being a bona fide kiddie picture by trying to add sex appeal. Schumaker has Uma Thurmon trying to be all sensual as Poison Ivy. He thinks the silly anatomically correct rubber suits will appeal to the ladies in the audience, and the movie is riddled with bad sexual references. I won't even call it sexual innuendo because that would be giving it too much credit. It's part of the camp. They're sexual puns, just like the ice puns. I think this is kind of offensive. You can't really have your cake and eat it too on this. If you're making a kids movie, make a kids movie. Don't at the same time have that scene where Batman and Robin are talking about Poison Ivy's stems and buds, or the scene where Mr. Freeze tells Poison Ivy he needs the diamonds from his hideout, and Ivy says, "I'll help you grab your rocks." Sure, the kids in the audience probably won't catch these references, but it just feels kind of dishonest to me. And besides, it isn't like the sexual material is helping adults like the movie better. Speaking of Mr. Freeze actually calling his hideout a hideout, this movie doesn't just feel like a toy commercial. Oftentimes it feels like the whole thing was made by some kids just playing with their toys, especially the opening action scene. It's just 15 minutes of Batman and Robin fighting Mr. Freeze and his minions in various locations. Yeah, they're trying to stop him from stealing a diamond, but isn't that the kind of thing a kid's going to come up with just playing with toys in his room? I love it when Gordon comes on the screen in the Batmobile. There's a new villain. He's calling himself Mr. Freeze. Then in the museum, Batman says, "Hi, Freeze, I'm Batman." And after some ice puns, Freeze yells to his minions, "Kill the heroes!" And shortly after, in the background of the fighting, you can hear him yell, "Destroy everything!" Really, I think 7-year-olds wrote this script. In fact, I don't even think they wrote it. I think Schumaker hired someone to give some 7-year-olds action figures from this movie, then recorded them playing for an afternoon, then lifted all the plot and the dialogue from that. Batman on ice skates, Bane in a trench coat, Ivy and Bane in gorilla outfits, Freeze and Ivy planning to kill everyone in the whole world so they can both freeze it and give the world back to the plant kingdom. Yeah, there's no way around it. We're watching 7-year-olds playing with millions of dollars. And obviously those 7-year-olds saw and loved Batman Forever because this thing has sequelitis in the extreme. Tell me if any of this sounds familiar. The movie starts with the heroes in this case, suiting up. Then there's a drawn-out fight scene just to set the mood, not really establishing character or plot, with an established villain, a bad guy who's already been through his origin. Meanwhile, a reclusive and eccentric scientist who works for Wayne Enterprises is busy on some new invention that will change the world. He or she takes said proposal to Bruce Wayne, who says it's too dangerous and rejects it out of hand. Then he or she becomes a supervillain in order to make the project happen anyway, and it has something to do with mind control. At some point, the established villain and the new villain find each other, decide Batman is a problem, and team up to kill him. And in the middle of all of that, some kid with a tragic past who has been staying at Wayne Manor stumbles upon the secret that Bruce Wayne is Batman and becomes a sidekick. Batman has to learn that working as a team is better than working solo, so he has no choice but to let the sidekick permanently join the team at the end. It didn't matter which villains were used. It could have been anyone, because this is just a formula new characters are being plugged into. If Mr. Freeze equals Two-Face and Poison Ivy equals the Riddler, where George Clooney is Batman and Robin and Batgirl are interchangeable, then expectations are met and movie will make money. The weirdest sensation for me watching this again is that what little drama is here is taking the place of comic relief. Now, comic relief exists in a serious film to take a short break from the intensity of the drama. When it's well integrated, it's a good idea. Real life has humorous moments in it, and it helps the film feel more real. It can also help us better appreciate the characters. Humorless people are generally unsympathetic. But the intention here really seems to be making an extremely silly cartoon in live action. I'm not going to defend that being done to a Batman movie, but if that really is the intention, then there shouldn't be any scenes that try to play it straight or we won't buy them. It's a fair argument that some scenes in Batman Forever are too silly for the movie on the whole to be taken seriously, but it at least tries to balance the humor with the drama. This movie seems to think we need a break from the comedy, almost as if it knows how obnoxious it's being. So it sprinkles in a scene every now and again it expects us to take seriously. You really ought to know your movie isn't going to be well received if you yourself think the audience needs a break from what you're making. It's really unfortunate, too, because Michael Gough's performance in this is quite good and completely overlooked because of what movie it's in. There's a substantial subplot all about Alfred. We learn about his sensibilities, how important his job and his duties to Bruce are to him, how he doesn't want to appear weak even when he's dying. He's made very likable and very real, or at least he would be if it weren't so hard to believe these scenes are in this movie. He brings with him some of the Batman psychology that was explored in Batman Forever, and he has a couple of lines that I think would have been excellent in a different context. He says that Batman is Bruce's means of control. Instead of becoming a victim when his parents died, he wanted to master death. It was about more than just avenging his parents' deaths. He says, what is Batman if not an effort to master the chaos that sweeps our world, an attempt to control death itself? Later, when it looks as though there's no hope for Alfred because his condition is deteriorating, he tells Bruce, There is no defeat in death. Victory comes in defending what we know is right. In this movie, these lines sound like empty moral platitudes, but had they been the basis for the film's themes, they would have been excellent. As it is, these ideas aren't explored and are completely buried under a multi-million-dollar toy commercial, as are the other themes and ideas that are vaguely understated as character motivation in order to contrive a situation to have all these toys and light shows on screen, such as Mr. Freeze's obsession with curing his wife. How far will a man go to save the woman he loves when he doesn't have the immediate power to save her, but he does have the power to destroy? Then there's the idea of Poison Ivy as an eco-terrorist. A woman who loves plants more than people becomes part plant and goes insane and no longer values humanity. And if the filmmakers just wanted to make a silly Batman movie, why completely make up some origins but use decent versions of others? They used Mr. Freeze's origin from the animated series, having his wife frozen in ice and trying to cure her, but then they turned Batgirl into Alfred's niece, made her a biker chick, and gave her a hackneyed backstory about her parents getting killed in a car crash. Why would this make her interested in becoming a superhero? It's like Schumaker didn't understand what makes Batman and Robin so connected. It isn't that their parents died, it's that they were killed on purpose in front of them. Barbara's parents were killed in an accident. How is that motivation for joining Batman's team? And this undermines Alfred's story too, because he does something really stupid. He tells Barbara to deliver a disc to his brother, but never to look at it. The disc, of course, has all of Batman's secrets on it. I don't really understand why he's doing this, or if Bruce even knows about it. Is Alfred's brother supposed to take his place and be Batman's butler? If not, I don't know why he's risking telling someone else. But that's not the stupid thing. After having her swear she won't look at it, of course, she does, and when she goes into the Batcave, Alfred has a batsuit waiting for her. So he didn't want her to know, but just in case she found out, he set her up to be Batgirl, complete with her own motorcycle. How would he even know she'd want to be Batgirl? In what way is this a good idea? Oh, and when she's trying to figure out the password on the disc, some of the passwords she tries are really amusing to me, and I love how the real one is only 3 letters long. He didn't have the thing log her out after too many tries, and he password protected the secret of Batman with a 3-letter password. The only other idea in the movie I kind of like is having Bruce already dating a girl before the movie starts, just to break that formula. Before this, he's met and dated a girl, and she's found out his secret every movie. Unfortunately, this girl is one-dimensional and doesn't get anything to do, and she's completely forgotten about by the third act. I think the enjoyment of this movie depends a lot on who you're watching it with, how late at night it is, and how old you have to be to drink whatever you're drinking. It's fun for all the wrong reasons, but it can be fun nevertheless, mostly because of the millions upon millions of things that make zero sense. If you needed any more proof that this was a toy commercial and not a movie, Poison Ivy actually has this line. "I'm a lover, not a fighter. That's why every Poison Ivy action figure comes complete with him," meaning Bane. Oh, and they didn't. I'm not sure there was a Poison Ivy and Bane 2-pack at all. What are the odds of Alfred and Nora Freeze having the same illness? And his just happens to be early enough that Freeze can save him, and Freeze just happens to have the cure riding around in the arm of his suit. You're really going to trust that, Batman? You don't know how long that medicine's been in there. You don't know where that arm's been. If this had actually been a serious movie and we'd been, invested in the characters, Alfred should have died. After that great line he gives to Bruce about how we live being more important than our death, to keep him alive really makes no sense. What does this say to Bruce? That he really can control death, even though Alfred helped him earlier to realize he can't? Alfred's death should have made him stronger. As it is, the status quo is restored, Batgirl is added, and George Clooney can keep pretending like he's really Batman. Batman doesn't smile that much. He likes working alone. I know you said you don't want Batman to be a tortured character, but he is. You can't change the character just because you don't like him. If you don't like him, don't play him. And Mr. Schumaker, I do accept your apology. This isn't the movie you wanted to make. Batman Forever probably wouldn't have had even so many silly moments with you at the helm if it hadn't been for the studio. I realize this movie probably would have been just as bad if the studio hired another director because they would have asked him for the same thing. I think you could have left out the ice puns and the sexual jokes, but I respect that you said what you said. But thank you so much for refusing to make another one. I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to rate this on 2 scales. As a toy commercial, I'll give Batman and Robin a 2.5 out of 4. It's flashy, there's a lot of production quality, everyone seems to be having a good time selling the product, but I was a kid when this movie came out, and I got to tell you, the toys themselves really weren't that great. Plus, there's false advertising. Every Poison Ivy did not come with a Bane. As a movie, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 4. That's going to seem high to some people, and I'm sure I'm going to get some hate mail for that, but hear me out. It gets an extra 0.5 for Michael Goh's performance. In the face of ridiculousness, he continued to play his part straight. Is it one of the worst superhero movies ever made? Of course it is. Is it worse than Catwoman? That's debatable.